And our final story today: on the heels of a reportedly deadly massacre of Nigerian schoolchildren, a new global petition has been launched calling on governments to ensure that every child can go to school in safety. This story tops our news across Africa. Joining us from Uganda via Skype is Arise News contributor Greg Branch. Hey, Greg, thanks so much for taking some time here with us. We appreciate it. Greg, can you hear me?
Hi, Debbie. How are you? I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. You know what? Your frame is freezing a little bit. Do you have your phone next to you? And we can talk on the phone. Do you have it?
Hello?
Okay. All right. Use your phone, Greg, okay?
Okay.
Okay. First of all, just give us an update on this headline of the attack that killed 9 Nigerian children.
Yeah, this was allegedly another Boko Haram Islamist attack in northern Nigeria. Apparently, the attack is sort of in retribution for young Nigerian students, young people who have sort of heeded the call of Nigeria's President Goodluck Jonathan to eradicate Boko Haram from the country. They feel as though Boko Haram is causing more problems than they're worth, clearly. And many young people are sort of heeding that call and decided they're going to assist the government in eradicating Boko Haram from northern Nigeria. And this attack seems to be a response to that by Boko Haram, who are essentially claiming to punish the students for joining with the Nigerian soldiers to eradicate these Islamists in these northern cities. What concerns me about this particularly is that these are young people, and Africa, unfortunately, has been saddled with this reputation for having child soldiers fight its wars. And although there's nothing to prove that these young people have been conscripted by the Nigerian army, they have decided to join the Nigerian army against these militants. So that's a bit of a concern, and I think this story bears out much more reporting when it comes to exactly the students' involvement, how they decided to get involved. Is it just that they sympathize with the Nigerian government and want a better country for themselves, or are they being conscripted into forces against these Islamists?
Yeah, it is a difficult and unfortunate story. Let's move on to some other things that you're going to tell us about. There's a potential conflict between Ethiopia and Egypt that has to do with the River Nile. What's going on there?
Yeah, Ethiopia is building a dam. It's called the Great Renaissance Dam, along a portion of the Blue Nile. The dam is believed to be, or will be, the largest dam on the entire continent once it's completed. It's expected to generate about 6,000 megawatts of hydroelectricity for the power-strapped nation, and will cost Ethiopians about $5 billion with a B dollars. Egypt's concern. Sorry.
No, I just said, I was reacting to the amount of the money. Go right ahead.
Sure. Egypt's concern is that they depend on the Nile River. It is their source for all fresh water, for drinking water. Egypt is surrounded by the Sahara Desert and the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, both of which are heavily salinated. They obviously decry anything that's going to decrease the amount of water that comes into their territory. And they believe that the dam could possibly lessen the amount of water that Egyptians have access to. The dam could affect, according to Egyptians, both Egypt and Sudan. So the problem is that clearly Ethiopia wants to build a dam in order to solve some of its power issues, and the Egyptians fear that they could be in a drought if the dam actually lessens the amount of water that they're used to getting.
And Greg, very quickly before we move on to the next topic, is there a potential solution to this crisis?
Well, there's been some discussion between Egypt and Ethiopia. Ethiopia has assured Egypt and Sudan that the dam will not lessen the amount of water that comes into Egypt, that they've only moved the river about 500 meters away from its original channel, and that in fact not only will they be able to share power with Egypt and Sudan if they need it, based on the power generated by the dam, but they'll also create a reservoir of fresh water which both Egypt and Sudan can use should there be a drought in either of the two countries. I think Egypt is beginning to tone down its sort of warlike rhetoric, and they realize that they're going to have to talk about this because the Nile flows through several countries, not just Ethiopia and Egypt.
Okay.
And this is a problem that's been going on for quite some time.
In the last few seconds that we have, I want to skip forward to the president's visit to Africa. The trip is going to cause, it's causing controversy because of the amount of money that it's going to cost. But I understand there's also some controversy there in Africa as well. Very briefly, tell us about that.
Sure. The Tanzanians are reacting to a Washington Post article, I think it was an editorial, that basically details a slavery case that occurred in Washington, D.C. by a Tanzanian diplomat. If you remember the case, it was in 2008. A diplomat was charged with enslaving his housekeeper, abusing her, beating her. The courts eventually awarded the housekeeper $1 million settlement or damages. The housekeeper is still in the U.S., but the Tanzanian diplomat, has left the U.S. and is now back in Tanzania and is an advisor to the Tanzanian president.
And will the trip to Tanzania still go ahead? Really briefly, Greg.
It seems as though it will, but I think that Tanzania is obviously very concerned that this could affect the length of time that the Obamas actually spend in their country.
Very, very interesting. Greg Branch joining us via Skype or telephone from Uganda. Thank you so much. And that's going to do it for us here at Arise America on this Thursday. We will have more on the Trayvon Martin trial the Trayvon Martin killing and the trial of George Zimmerman. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.